Cabo Delgado, over 250,000 people return home. More than 250,000 people earlier displaced by Islamic State-linked terrorists in Mozambique's northern province of Cabo Delgado have returned to their homes thanks to joint operations by Rwanda Security Forces and the Mozambican army since 2021. The coastal region had been ravaged by the Ansar al Sunnah Jama'a's terrorists who killed more than 4,000 people and displaced hundreds of thousands others since 2017.
Ansar al Sunnah Jama'a is a terrorist organization that has links with IS, Islamic State. We tried to establish the links. Actually, its name comes from, Islamic State, and this was Islamic State of the Central African Province, IS-CAP. So it's a big network that connects actually with the one in DRC. So they are indeed, as you rightly put it, this is an organization that was trying to expand into, Mozambique, and it picked areas that were relatively, should I say, not very populated. We've carried out 3 operations, as previously mentioned. We have worked jointly with SADC to operate in the major strongholds of Ansar al Sunnah Jama'a in Katupa Forest in Makomia. And we successfully dislodged them twice. And the few remnants that are there, because it's a very big forest, are also periodically engaged. And it is very important for us to be consistent, to continuously operate in those areas in order to deny them freedom of action. How long are we going to be here? We are now undertaking several steps towards building the security sector, supporting in the building of the security sector. We don't have a time frame, but we are in the process of building capacity to ensure that whenever we make the decision, they will be able to operate on their own. Mosimbo de Praia and Palma, no recent attacks. The only minor attacks that have occurred are along the Mesaro River, which borders between Mosimbo de Praia and Makomia. And these are remnants of Katupa Forest who keep coming in, but they do not capture territory. They only conduct nuisance attacks on various local communities there, in trading centers. And, but whenever they come, they get a bloody beating. So I can say to a large extent that they've been controlled. Well, the advantages of being in a bilateral relation, and here we're talking about Mozambique and Central African Republic, where the Rwanda forces are in a bilateral arrangement, is that we choose to set the rules, which is different in a multilateral setup like the United Nations. So whenever we want to operate, we don't wait for the UN headquarters to give us a go-ahead. 2, doctrine. The fact that there are multiple countries involved in an operation means that you need to agree on the modus operandi. You have to agree on the way, on how to fight. So in a bilateral setup, it is very easy for you to conduct operations whenever you feel like, however you feel like. And this creates quick success. And that is why our bilateral forces have been quite successful. The first challenge that we had on arrival is the destruction of infrastructure, communication network, electricity. Now there is a return to virtually everything. You have your cell phones on right now, you have internet throughout. So it's easy to operate now. It's much better than it was. That is in regard to infrastructure, because that's also very critical in operations. And the other challenge we had initially was the fact that there was no one in town. Now we have lots of people have returned back to their homes, so it's easy to man. So when the insurgents removes everyone from their location, it becomes very difficult to come to a ghost town and operate. But today it is clear that people have returned, so that makes it easier for us to operate and to mobilize them even more to fight against the insurgents. And one thing I should say is that an insurgent needs the population to survive. So the fact that the population is coming back from the bushes to their homes is testament to the growing, should I say, defeat or failure of the insurgency. We have trained the first cohort of Mozambicans in Rwanda who graduated a couple of days ago in advanced training. It's a mini special force, and yeah, that's about 150. But we'll expand that. It was just the beginning. We'll expand that further. And one thing we'll do is that we'll actually train trainers, TOT, so that they can be able to train others. That's our philosophy. The moment you train a specific cohort, that group will be able to transfer knowledge to many others. So that's what we are doing.
In July 2021, Rwanda deployed troops to Cabo Delgado at the request of the Mozambican government. Rwandan troops are deployed to 3 districts, Mocimboa de Praia, Palma, and Ankiwabi. We are committed and well prepared to ensure security in the areas under our control so that security in Cabo Delgado province is fully restored, said the Joint Task Force commander of the RSF, Major General Alexis Kagame. He said the troops conduct operations including long-range patrols, mobile operation bases, confidence-building patrols, fighting patrols, ambushes, and joint operations with the Mozambican Armed Defense Forces and troops from the Southern African Development Community. All these operations contributed much to the defeat of terrorists, and as a result, internally displaced people returned to their homes on the average of 87%. Kagame said after community work, umuganda, and medical outreach exercises jointly conducted by the RSF and Mozambican forces in Mocimboa de Praia city on Saturday, December 16th. He said the relationship and the interaction between the local population and the Rwanda Security Forces has been strengthened by outreach programs like provision of medical service, community work, provision of school materials, and the construction of markets, among others. This created trust and good relations between the population, especially in the RSF area of responsibility. The situation of security has been enhanced, he said, adding that more services have resumed, such as local government administrative offices, health centers, schools, and banks. Thanks to the joint operations, he said, Mocimboa de Praia saw the reopening of a seaport off the coast of the Indian Ocean and the inauguration of an airport in October by President Philippe Nyusi. Mocimboa de Praia residents testified to a return to normal. We are free to move and we have hope for a better future. The Rwandan soldiers came to our rescue and we have hope, said Ines Vasco, 29, who benefited from the medical outreach with her daughter, along with over 250,000 Mocimboa de Praia residents on Saturday. The captain, Quentin Brink, the manager of the newly refurbished port of Mocimboa de Praia, their operations have not had any disturbance since in 2022 when the port resumed operation. The port is currently fully operational. We are what we call a tidal port. We do shipping operations, bringing vessels in and out during the high tides or when there is efficient water. We've currently developed 3 berths and we've got a 4th berth still being developed, he said. Brink said the port is now fully operational, serves 2 to 3 vessels a month on average. We're doing the general type of cargo, but we've got the capability of doing containerized cargo, he said. In terms of security, Brink said he was very comfortable with the Rwandan and Mozambican armed forces. We haven't had any incidents since I have been on these sites. Palma and Mocimboa de Praia districts have been most of the displaced people return home. The Praia districts have seen most of the displaced people return home. Bridge General Ronald Guivanga, Rwanda's defense and military spokesperson, said, statistically, the figure that we have is roughly between 250,000 and 350,000, which in general appears to be just about half of the total that had left. But in Palma and Mocimboa de Praia, we can say that about 80% have returned back.